Welcome to Video Games Weekly. I'm Paul Charchi, and my co-host is Editor-in-Chief of Game Informer magazine, Reiner. Hello.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Great. Nice to talk to you. I'm excited to dig into PGA 2K21 because we've been missing great golf games for a long time, and a lot of people have wanted to play with the real golfers that are out there on real courses. A little bit like trying to play Madden. You can put together a really good football game, but if it doesn't have the teams in it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have the players, it's not quite the same. And I know a lot of our listeners love golf games, and I'm excited to talk to you about that. Then there's two new big DC games that we have more information about: Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. You've got some early information on these.
I do. Yep. Yeah, I can go into those quite a bit.
Looking forward to that. Battletoads was a classic 90s era arcade battler, and we'll talk about Battletoads and whether or not you want to jump into that. Spiritfarer is a fascinating new game I've been tracking for a year and a half, and it finally came out last week. We'll talk about a game enjoying 93% positive reviews on OpenCritic. Yeah, Spiritfarer. This is going to be one of those indie darlings, Reiner. We'll talk through that a little bit. You and I are both big fans of Children of Morta. We've got new news on that game, and there's a new Lord of the Rings game in development. So lots to get to. Let's start with PGA 2K21. You did the review for Game Informer. Mm-hmm. Tell people what we've got here in this game, and maybe even start with the background with the developer. This is not the first time. This is not their first crack at making a golf game.
Yeah, so it is a new series under the 2K Sports banner, so you're going to see the same logo that you see on the NBA games, and to a degree, it holds true to that of, that branding, but behind the scenes, the nuts and bolts of it have been going for years under the name The Golf Club. This series by HB Studios started off a little rough. There was definitely a hook to its game, and they have, over the years, straightened it out and kind of perfected it down using this analog golf swing on the right stick. You pull it down like you're pulling your club back in real life, and then flick it forward. And it sounds easy.
No, it sounds hard. The 3 button that I've been doing for 20 years, that sounds easy to me. This right thumbstick sounds a little bit intimidating.
It is. And you think, just how quick that motion is, that you could do it perfect every time. But there's a little meter on the side of the screen that will show you just how off you are and how prone you are to just repeated mistakes.
Wow.
I kept slicing the ball, and I would change my hand. This game got into my head, Charge, like you wouldn't believe.
It gave you the yips.
It did. Yeah, it made me swear a bunch, but then also readjust how I held the controller to try to perfect that shot. So it has that legacy gameplay built into it, and they use it in a big way. It's better than it's ever been in PGA Tour 2K21. Now,
you mentioned that it's got the 2K banner on it now. When I've tweeted about this game, everybody's immediate response, Reiner, is, oh, great, it's going to be filled with microtransactions like everything else 2K does.
Yeah, it is. It has My Player. It has the virtual currency that everybody complains about. The thing I'll say about that, Charge, when you start your game, you get to create your own golfer, right? You don't play as a pro. You play against them. They become your rivals.
All right.
But you create your own persona. It's supposed to be a kind of like rags to riches, right? They give you a T-shirt and some really bad khakis, and that's all you could really equip yourself with out of the gates, unless you spend real money. But that whole rags to riches story, the riches all look junky. So
no way.
The clothing I can buy, I never made myself look cool or comfortable. Even the character creator comes up short. So that whole fantasy of this golf experience needs a lot of work next year. I couldn't make my facial hair. I couldn't go completely bald. There's just things that are coming up short there. There's not a lot of options. Yes, you can kind of sculpt your face through clay, but it never quite looks human.
Oh, I can imagine if I were trying to sculpt something with my hands, it wouldn't look very human either.
That uncanny valley is very pronounced here of just there's just something off. You can't quite put your finger on it. But
and that's what you want. You want your golfer to slowly become more simian over time.
Yeah.
as your abilities go up.
I'm playing as ET, whatever.
Oh God. So you were talking about the difficulty of the swing with the right analog stick. Can I either put it on dummy mode just for that swing, or can I even go back to a 3-button style? Is there any options for anybody who's intimidated by PGA 2K21's right thumbstick sensitivity, meter?
Yeah, so here's the great thing about it. So you can play it as a full simulation. You're gonna, your handicap's gonna go through the roof because you're terrible at it. Or you can go into the options, and there's 6 different difficulty settings for the swing and timing. You could set all that to the easiest setting.
Okay, now we're talking.
And then all of a sudden, every shot is perfect. And the whole flow of the game changes in a very interesting way. It all of a sudden starts playing like those 3-click swing games. Not that you're doing that, but you're still doing the analog swing, but you're flying through these courses because your ball is going to go where you need it to. You still need to read the wind and stuff like that, but the success you have and the speed to which you can play under that setting turns it into a different game. That's every bit as fun. I enjoyed the stress of every shot, making sure everything was perfect, reading the green, all that stuff, and then also just playing it lightheartedly. Both avenues will get you the virtual currency, your experience. You can go through the career that way. Mm-hmm. You cannot play with your custom swing settings online. When
that makes sense.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
You got to be on pro, legendary, or better, right? So that's the one rub. If you do want to compete online, you can't do that. Although, if you create your own online society, which allows you to make your own tournaments and seasons, you can have the settings set that way if you want it that way.
Okay. So if I want to have a place where novices can go, I can make my own, what do you call it, society online?
Society, yeah.
Okay.
This is Golf Charge.
That's pretty weird, calling it.
Hoity-toity here.
Yeah, I guess so. How about if you think you'd call it a golf club?
Well, maybe they don't want to use that name ever again.
Maybe not. That's right. So how many PGA Pro golfers are in this? And do you have access to all of them right away, or do you have to sort of unlock them one at a time?
No, you're not using them. You're going against them.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, and there's not many. I want to say there's maybe a dozen, maybe 20 total. You don't have Tiger Woods and stuff like that. There's 15 courses and events from the tour, including the FedEx Cup. So that's kind of the big finale. Yeah. You're earning points through your season to, first registers that you can be a part of this, and then you compete in it. So here's the great thing about it. The courses are down to 1 centimeter of realism. So they had these drones, these cameras fly over the real courses, and they gathered all that data, and then they just brought that back and built the courses on that. And they say it's 1 centimeter away from being perfect.
That's ridiculous.
So if you want to be there with the pros, where they're playing, what it's like to be there, this is as real as it's going to get in terms of actual, recreation of that landscape. We're
talking about PGA 2K21. How many courses are in it, and what are notable courses? Is there like Pebble Beach in it? What are the notables?
Oh boy, I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of the notable courses, but boy, there's a ton. And they even made 6 of their own. They brought some of them over from the golf course. Mm-hmm. But I just a lot of them. I don't think
Pebble Beach is in. I'll tell you what. I just looked it up. Okay. There's a bunch of TPC courses. Is the gist of it? TPC Twin Cities in it.
There you go.
TPC Southwind, TPC Scottsdale, Sawgrass, San Antonio, Louisiana, Deer Run, Boston, Quail Hollow, and several others. But some of the really big notable stops are, in fact, most of the really big notable tour stops are not in this game. But
not yet.
There's a course creator, so you figure that there's going to be somebody out there who just loves Pebble Beach that's going to end up making Pebble Beach.
Yeah, and you could. The course creator is really cool. You can also just mess around with it in ways you wouldn't expect. Like, they let you do anything you want. So on my first hole, I just put this giant stone bridge in front of the green.
Okay.
So it's like you either got to bounce it in or go over it, make sure you got some good backspin on your ball. Mm-hmm. And then the next one, I decided to put like 15 gators on the green, live alligators on the green. And then on the next one, over the pin, I had this giant airplane that's just like a passenger plane that's just hovering there. So if you lob your ball in, it's going to hit the airplane instead. So you got to kind of sneak it in there. Hit it with like a wood on the fairway, so you get enough speed to roll it up there.
All right, so last thing I want to ask about PGA 2K21. Graphically, a lot of the times these golf games have been really good in the past. How does this one feel?
This one doesn't stack up.
No.
Both in animation and then just the amount of detail. Yes, the courses are realistic in terms of, their geometry and all that stuff, but the detail that's in those objects just doesn't look great. It definitely feels I don't know. It's lacking the texture, the lighting. There's just elements of it that just don't look good.
Okay, so what was your final score? You did the review for Game Informer, which
I
people
gave it
can
an
see.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. All right, that's pretty good.
So on the links itself, the stroke play, all that stuff, fantastic. Comes up a little short in the front end, what you're unlocking. Like we talked about the clothing, who cares? You get better clubs, that have, a little bit of boost on them. You get better gear. Obviously, it's going to perform better. You're not getting anything for your character stat-wise, which I like, actually, because it all comes down to just how you perform on the course.
Yeah.
There's no artificial way to make yourself better. You're not, juicing up or anything like that after one game. PGA Tour 2K21, totally worth playing this year. I'm glad, 2K has really kind of embraced it as their golf series now. They did publish the last golf club game. But now they've kind of brought it in-house fully, like they think this game matters, and hopefully next year that means it gets a bigger budget, better graphics, more stuff, more
I can see
courses.
That. And if 2K is behind it now, it's going to be annualized, right? You assume?
It has to be, yeah. It has to be.
I would think so too. I bet we get more of the of this series, and I think ultimately it should only get better. For all the flack that 2K gets, much of it they brought on themselves, and justifiably so. But they also tend to make really good games. I mean,
they do. Yeah.
NBA 2K has been basically the best sports video game series for 5-6 years now.
Yeah, and one of the best games visually too. Like just the amount of detail in there is just kind of jaw-dropping at times.
There is the NBA 2K professional esports team that's in town associated with the Timberwolves, right? Wolves Gaming. Why don't we just start up our professional golf 2K golf league?
Let's do it. What are we going to call ourselves?
Professional golf league. The league or ourselves?
Is there a team?
I think I'd rather just run. Can I just run the league? So I don't have to actually, grind away
Turns out
and play
you're good
again.
at that, I hear.
Well, maybe that's better. Yeah, that might be more my core competency. You can play.
I don't want to touch the controller.
Right.
I'll just be behind the scenes.
What's
taking
this
your virtual
thing
currency.
with red button, blue button, green button? What? Next segment, I want to talk about the two big DC games. Both got a big chunk of new content dropped on them that are coming. Gotham Knights. This Gotham Knights is coming next year, I believe.
Correct.
Suicide Squad coming the year after that. Is that right?
That is correct.
That is correct. And so let's break those down. DC is in the rearview mirror in the movie area, but from a gaming area, this is a nice opportunity. They've had at least somewhat better luck in the video game space with the Batman games, especially. So, and a lot of this has got some of the Batman lineage to it. So we'll talk through Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad when we come back to Video Games Weekly on the Fan. Video Games Weekly on the Fan, Paul Charchian and Reiner with you. Segment number 2 tonight, devoted to comic book games and specifically the DC universe, which is been moving away from Batman and maybe very intentionally so, as they feel like they have to start building other characters that people care about. I mean, part of the beauty of the Marvel movies and games is just the breadth of characters that they've introduced. There's something for everybody. And I think my assumption is that DC felt like they were kind of a one-trick pony with Batman. Yes. So I think these next games are really an effort to diversify the characters that you care about. So let's start with, no, you don't think so? Okay.
Well, I mean, it's like Gotham Knights, the first game we're going to talk about here, Charch, it's the Batman universe, right? Like the first thing we see is Bruce Wayne in his Batcave being like, if you got this message, I peaced out. I'm gone.
I'm dead.
Don't go in the Batcave because it blew it up. So see you later.
Yeah, but he's dead.
But who takes his spot? It's the people we know: Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing, and then Jason Todd, who was Robin, becomes Red Hood.
Okay, but those are not. I mean, we all know Robin, but everybody else are not. I'm assuming most listeners aren't deeply familiar with Batgirl, other than maybe name only. Nightwing and Red Hood. These are all characters that DC gets an opportunity to have us play and interact with and get to know on a far more intimate level than we do now.
Yeah, they're cool characters in their own right, but they are in the shadow of Batman, right? Like this is his legacy. They say Batman is dead in this game. They build that right away. The story they're telling, though, Charge, which goes into something deep comic lore. I don't want to nerd out too much here, but there's the Court of Owls, which is the secret society that's been in Gotham, that's been explored in the comic books, that has a very deep tie to Bruce Wayne, his family, and Batman. So for them to explore that without Batman doesn't make sense. I think we're going to have that kind of fake out here where Batman's dead for a good chunk of the game. You play as these 4 different characters who you get to play at any point, by the way. You could pick who you want to be. You could play it co-op too, Chart. So you and I could be playing online together, 2-player co-op, or you could play it all single player.
Yeah, but no couch co-op.
No.
That's such a lost opportunity. I mean, here you are with Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Red Hood. What a great opportunity! And to me, this is an action-based game, right? This isn't
action RPG.
This is clearly an action. To me, it looks like Diablo. The only way to play Diablo in my mind is co-op on the couch with friends, ideally, and to not have couch co-op in this game is just. I think it's a huge missed opportunity.
But I think Batman will eventually be playable. Like I can't see them making
they
a
can't get
Batman
to the end
game
without Batman.
Without Batman, his logo is behind Gotham Knights. Like that bat symbol is behind the Gotham Knights logo.
Okay, well, I want to fast forward to the review for this, which you're going to do the review, and Batman ends up being a playable character in the last 20% of the game. Yes. Are you going to spoil it in the review that you get to play as Batman?
If it's last 20%, maybe not. But if it's like after 20 minutes, oh, for sure.
Well, for sure. Yeah. But that doesn't seem to be. I mean, the whole setup on this is Batman's dead. So I'm assuming that that's not going to happen.
You know what's going to happen is you're going to go into an online game and you're going to be playing. And all of a sudden, someone who spent all night playing all the way through the game is just going to come in as Batman. Oh, cool.
He's going to kick everybody's ass is what's going to happen.
You said It looks like Diablo. I think it looks like the old Arkham games. Like it is built on that same DNA. Even the amount of detail and the kind of gritty texture work that's displayed here looks exactly like those old Arkham games. They say it's not connected to that universe. This is a standalone story.
And it's not the same developer as the old Arkham games.
It is WB Montreal, who made Arkham Origins.
Oh, okay. I knew it was not Rocksteady, so okay, got it.
So you're seeing the same kind of verticality where you're using the grapple. You have, you could flap out your cape to glide. You can sneak around on beams, hang people upside down. You grab their legs as a stealth takedown. You could drop down, sneak behind them, choke them out, go into the vents. All that stuff from the Arkham games returns. It really looks like it's that same kind of experience. They're expanding that to co-op play, so you can have, Robin and Nightwing together. What a cool dynamic that's going to be. Mm-hmm. Both of them were Robins at one point. And
well, wait, wasn't Red Hood also a previous Robin?
So you have basically this. They got three Robins.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez, I got 3 current and past Robins in this game. Again, it's called Gotham Knights, and it's expected next year. Do we have a sense? Are we talking January next year? Or are we talking holiday of next year?
Like most games with the 2021 date, it's just kind of a nebulous date, and we don't know where it's going to land.
Okay.
I'm guessing holiday.
All right. Now, separate and different from Gotham Knights is Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is being made by Rocksteady, so it's a different developer, and it's getting away from Batman, which again, reasons I think they're trying to get away from Batman and expand the universe a bit. And they've already put a bunch of effort into this whole Suicide Squad anyway. So tell people a little bit about Suicide Squad and what we know about that one, although it's 2 years away yet.
Yep. So it's coming in 2022. It's called Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, and we'll get into that, the subtext there in a very quick second here. But Rocksteady Studios, the developer, they were the original team that made the Arkham series. So Arkham Asylum, City, and Night. That is
Right.
this studio. They've been working on this game for what we believe is 5 years.
Jeez.
Or they had some failed games that never came to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they're moving away from Batman. We're now going to Metropolis, so from Gotham to Metropolis.
Okay.
But there is some tissue that's connecting here. This is a true sequel to the Arkham games in terms of narrative. The one thread that we know of that's continuing over is Harley Quinn, who is a part of the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to be one of the 4 playable characters that you get to play as. There's Captain Boomerang. That sounds like your guy, Charge.
Oh, in what way?
Just he brings a.
No, I want the
to a
shark
fight.
guy. I don't know who the shark guy is. I want the shark guy.
There's King Shark, who's just a walking shark.
Yes.
Walking, talking, angry shark who has a Gatling gun.
I have nothing. You got a problem with that?
And then Deadshot, who is a sniper. He has a jetpack. So those are the 4 characters they've introduced. I'm guessing there will be more than that. The Suicide Squad is usually very flush in characters, and a lot of them are disposable in the comics, Charge.
Yeah.
They bring in characters that haven't been seen in a comic book since the 1970s,
Wow.
with the one purpose of killing them off for a dramatic moment. But we're in Metropolis for this game, for Suicide Squad. Brainiac has descended upon the city. He's invading. Superman's nowhere to be found. We see the squad battling these aliens. They're learning about who their target is. And then all of a sudden you see the Man of Steel appear as a silhouette in the sun. He's holding one of Brainiac's henchmen, and he uses his eye beams to blow his head off.
Superman's not usually a blow the head off my enemies kind of guy.
And then you see his eyes are glowing purple with the same energy that Brainiac has. He's possessed. The squad learns their target is Superman. So you're going to be taking on the Justice League in this game. It's coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC. So this is a next-gen only game.
Mm-hmm.
It looks cool. We've only seen a CG trailer. The whole build-up, or if it's in-engine, it's not gameplay what we saw.
I think it was all CGI.
It looks great.
It did look great, but too great, right? To the point that I'm looking at this going, no way.
Yeah, but it will be new-gen machines, not until 2022. Sadly, it's a long ways out. And, I mean, that gives Rocksteady, that's like 7 years since their last game.
No kidding. That's a luxury. And it ought to be great by that time. You'd certainly hope so anyway.
And it's going to blend that kind of Arkham-style melee, like Harley Quinn with her baseball bat, but also a lot of gunplay. That's something that they're adding to this. Like, they're expanding the combat to have gunplay and melee.
If I'm a massive, massive walking shark, why do I need a gun? I mean, I'm already I'm already a killing machine. I mean, you're the most feared, and you're a great white. You're like the most feared. You're the most feared I don't know, the animal in the sea. He's not a fish. I don't know, whatever. And now I'm on land where I've got a bountiful supply of humans to eat. Why do I need a gun?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, just go crazy. With your teeth.
Exactly. You'd think, I've got the perfect attack already with my teeth.
And the last thing to point out, Church, this will be single player. You could go all the way through it by yourself, switch characters on the fly. If you're not playing a different character, it'll be controlled by AI. Or you could play it with 3 of your other friends and do full-on 4-player co-op.
What kind of co-op?
Online co-op.
Only.
We don't know, but I'm going to assume they're not doing
no couch co-op.
Split screen. Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, I just don't understand how so many people are getting this so wrong. That so many couch co-op is so much fun, and there's so much bonding that happens within families. You're basically saying, when you have online only, you're basically saying online only co-op. You're saying your family can't play together. Because how many families have got 4 different, like Xbox Live accounts and, are paying for that, or 4 different PlayStation Plus accounts? Nobody. We just want to have a shared experience together.
In the COVID world, though, Charch, it is a good message that your friends should not come over to your house and game with you. Stay apart.
Well, in 2022,
play online.
In 2022, I really hope I'm not worrying about it.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Speaking of couch co-op games, one of our favorite of the past, I don't know, several years, is Children of Morta, and they've got some new DLC with a nice hook to it. give people just a little background on Children of Morta for those that maybe haven't heard us talk about it in the past.
Yeah, it is a story-driven, beautiful, sprite-based, graphically colorful. Church, I don't even know how you describe the look of this. Almost like an animated film done in pixels, right?
Yeah, it's usually pixeled stuff for me looks crappy like Minecraft. It's got all the pixelization, but it's at the same time gorgeous with the color palette, and it's just the way they've done it. It really is beautiful, which is hard to do with pixelated graphics.
But you play as every member of this family going through dungeons. Their story unfolds. The heart and soul of this family comes out in the story. You learn why they're important, why they matter to each other, what's going on in their lives as this threat is kind of emerging from the valley and is threatening their way of life. And you really bond with these characters as you go through this dungeon to find out what's really going on. It's beautifully done, like both in terms of gameplay. This is a game you could play with friends, or by yourself. And they are now adding a new element, Charge, that just sings to the heart of this experience.
It really does. It's right on brand.
It's called Paws and Claws, and it's new DLC that they are implementing for free that adds a shelter, an animal shelter to your home where animals like deer, birds, dogs, you name it, can come and you get to tend to them and feed them and play with them. It's just another element of this game where it's like, yes, there's a darkness that's lurking in the shadows, but you know what? I'm going to play with a dog. It just has heart and soul, and it's just one of the best games I played this year. I know it officially came out last year, but nobody really caught on to it then. But I'm so glad I played it. I think it was January, February when I got to play it. But everyone should play this. It's on every system.
Yeah, Children of Morta has been ported to everything, I think. And it's one of those indie games, and this happens, every year there's a handful of games that fall into this category, Reiner, where just the word of mouth and the reviews are so positive that it ends up, sort of breaking out of what, where most of the, the indie games end up, sort of languishing.
Yeah. And I got to correct myself. It is not free. The proceeds that you from this DLC go to the Humane Society.
Correct.
So to help our animal friends buy this DLC, play Children of Morta first and foremost. It's so good, but then
it's really
DLC.
good. Yeah. If you want, speaking of Diablo, I mean, the closest gameplay comparison really is Diablo. It's a 2-player Diablo game. It's an isometric overhead shooter, not shooter, but
brawler.
Brawler.
Shooter
brawler, right?
Arrows
Yeah, like Diablo,
yeah.
Right? With magic and all of that, and it's really, really well done. So we highly recommend if you like action RPGs, highly recommend Children of Morta. And if you want the extra DLC and you want to end up donating $3.99 to the Humane Society, that would be a nice way to do a little something for your favorite furry friends as well. Children of Morta. So we'll when we come back, Reiner, I want to talk about Battletoads, a fantastic 90s era game that they've dusted off, and they've given it the same name as the original, like Doom did, right? In 2016, they redid Doom, and the game just called Doom. And now we've got Battletoads. That's it. It's not Battletoads : anything. Although it probably should have been Battletoads : don't buy this game.
Whoa.
That would have been good. On the other end of the spectrum, Spiritfarer came out last week to glowing reviews. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get back. And some very solid reports of new Switch hardware coming in the not too distant future. We'll talk about that as well. So plenty to get to between now and the top of the hour on Video Games Weekly. Welcome back to the final segment of Video Games Weekly. Paul Charchian and Reiner from Game Informer and GameInformer.com. Do we start with the good review or the bad review?
Let's start with the good one, Charch.
Okay, that's Spiritfarer. Now, Spiritfarer, which I'm going to say it that way so people can hear what we're saying, because it's an odd word.
Yeah.
Spiritfarer. If you think of farer like somebody on a ferry, the concept behind Spiritfarer is kind of adorable, although it sounds dark, but it's not. You act as sort of like a boat captain that's taking the recently deceased spirits to another plane of existence. You're ferrying them to another plane of existence, and they all have specific needs that, and they're these characters that you run into. This game's just adorable, Reiner. They're all anthropomorphic. They're, like deer and lions and owls, and the game. This is the only game I know with a dedicated hug button. It's the concept is these creatures have something that they have to do, and they need your help to do it before they can go to their final resting place. And it's really a bit of a crafting game on a boat, and you get to build up all these rooms on your boat and ultimately build a very, very big, expansive boat that has lots of sections on it. Places where you would garden and build things and cook things and perform all kinds of different actions, ironworks, and all kinds of stuff. And it's really a very crafting heavy game. And the reason for that is many of the animals have whatever they need. They need you to do some crafting to try to free their spirits. And over the course of Spiritfarer, Reiner, you will end up befriending these different spirits that come in, and then doing the things that they need to do at your own pace, no combat, go at whatever speed you want, to eventually get them to the point that they can be released to the next life.
Yeah, so it's a management game / platformer / there's also some action, like there's a sequence where you're playing like Guitar Hero. Like where you gotta, time button presses. But yeah, it is about this story, this narrative of dealing with death in a very colorful and imaginative way, right? Like you are transporting these people to a different plane, and you are giving them a place to live for a bit on this boat, right?
Yeah.
Which ends up looking like a city. It starts out like this little boat, like you wouldn't imagine, but then picture like stacks of rooms, almost like skyscrapers that build up far higher than it should on any kind of floating platform, right? Like,
yeah,
it looks wild when it's fully kind of built out.
And you've got a sidekick little cat who follows you around. And I think while anybody could enjoy this game, my 14-year-old daughter is infatuated with Spiritfarer. Well, let me tell you, it is dead on for that particular demographic because it's so adorable and it's so heart-wrenching. And you really do get attached to these. You spend enough time with each of these spirits that you get to know them and care about them and interact with them. And then they die. And with your help, not that you killed them, but you are releasing them because you've performed this quest that they need so that they can move on. And there are lots of talk about people crying in the game, men crying in the game while they're playing it. And it doesn't all just take place on the boat. You go to all these fantastic and different islands to do different objectives. Yeah. And there's some light platforming, as you mentioned, in it as well. You'll need to be able to jump and double jump and try to get to areas you couldn't get to before and figure out how do I get up there to go get this object that I need for this particular quest.
You may miss your jumps, but you won't die. You'll just try again. There's no rush to push you in any direction. There's no you go at your own pace. It's all your own relaxed pace, doing what you need to whenever you need to for your tasks, right? Like that's how this game is built. And it's one of those experiences where they just want you to feel good about what you're doing and enjoy, this rich universe that they put together.
Last summer at E3, Spiritfarer was shown on, I believe, at Microsoft's presser for about 15 seconds, 30 seconds, something like that. And I saw it and I'm like, whoa, this is really different. So, I dove in, got a lot more information than there was available at E3. And I've been tracking this thing really closely. And so has my daughter. And now to have it come out, and when I go to OpenCritic rating on Spiritfarer is a 93% positive reviews, and it's averaging a 94 out of 100, an 84 out of 100, which is, Ghosts of Tsushima got 85 out of 100. Right. So awfully strong reviews. Now, Joe Juba reviewed it for you,
Mm-hmm.
He seemed a little less enthused by it. Oh, wow. It's up to, by the way, it's up to 88%. I'm looking at it now. It's up to 88% average.
Yeah, he gave it a 8 out of 10, so he thought it was good. He did criticize the crafting for being tedious.
Yes.
But
That's
really
crafting, by the way.
And
yeah.
Enjoyed the story and progression. And said it's a journey worth taking. So not as high of a score, not as high of praise from him, but still a game that he's recommending everybody play.
Yeah, it is a good game. So again, 88% is the average on OpenCritic, and 96% critics recommend. Wow. Spiritfarer. It's a small title available on everything: Switch, PlayStation 4, PC, Xbox One, and it's part of Xbox One Game Pass. So if you've got Game Pass, absolutely check it out, because it's no new cost to you at all. So highly recommend that anybody check it out, but particularly if you're cool with a crafting-based, beautiful, heartfelt game with lots of fun critters and stuff like that. It's great for what it is. Spiritfarer.
It's also on Stadia, Charge.
It's on Stadia. What? Yeah,
so if you have one of those, play it on the go.
If you have one of those, just even tell us what it's like. I mean, you're the guy that's got it. I'm interested. We get almost no information on Stadia, and I'll be surprised if it ends up surviving. We'll find out. Okay, let's go to Battletoads. This is on the other end of the Joe Juba scale. It got absolutely hammered in his review. But let's do a little background. What do you remember from Battletoads in the 90s, Reiner?
That was a 1991 side-scrolling brawler. It was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles wannabe.
Yeah.
Rather than reptiles, they went with amphibians, and these are what do you call them?
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah, like beasts with sunglasses on, and during the Bart Simpson era of trying to be cool, and just weird characters, but people loved them. The game was fun back then. It had one of the hardest levels ever, where you're on like a speeder bike on the NES version. That was a stopping point for most people. They could not get past that speeder bike moment, yet they loved the gameplay up to that point.
And it was in arcades too.
Yeah it finally back. Some of the Battletoads were characters in Killer Instinct for whatever reason.
That's right.
You could play as them as kind of a joke or a nod to fans. But now they're back in their own standalone game that has kind of a look of a Saturday morning cartoon. It's very cartoony.
It is.
And I like that element of it, but the gameplay, oof.
Joe gave it a failing grade, 5 out of 10. And here's a great quote from Joe. I love this. Surly Joe is the best Joe Juba, by the way. This is from Joe. Does this reboot strike a successful balance between old and new? That's a fair question, but it's so far down the list of problems that it's also irrelevant. The biggest and most pervasive issue is much simpler. Battletoads just isn't fun.
Yeah.
The kindest thing I can say about Battletoads, it works. That's it.
Yeah. He did not have fun playing that. And the second I saw his headline, that was just a shallow swamp. I was like, okay,
it's not a good sign.
I don't need to see any more.
So mostly in this one, Ryder, you play a series of uninteresting mini games that you can't wait to end, and you just go from mini game to mini game. There is no sort of like core concept of what this game is, except a bunch of mini games. For example, one is a top-down space shooter, the other is a 2D platformer, and both types are bare-bones representations of what those genres can be. I mean, we've seen top-down space shooters that can be great, and we've seen 2D platformers can be great, but when you're trying to do a lot of different things, and none of them then you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I like the idea of just changing things up and kind of moving away from the simple brawling formula, but you got to do those things right. And if one's wrong, you're going to frustrate your player base, and when most of them are wrong or miss the mark, you're in trouble. And that's what happened with Battletoads.
And then last thing from Joe, and again, I love Surly Joe. The game Battletoads is filled with these annoying attempts at humor. And, look, we've seen this in a lot of games that have tried and mostly failed. Most games can't pull off humor particularly well. But he said the attempts at humor are so aggressively unfunny that I was cringing during every cutscene.
I kind of want to play it just for that.
I know. Somebody just do a video montage of all of the unfunny jokes that they tried to land in Battletoads. Oh man, you know what you're gonna end up replaying it in like 6 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll have it on replay for sure.
Yeah.
A video show where we look at the games of yesteryear.
That'll be fun. And you guys, it's not like you go for the best games of yesteryear.
Oh no. Yeah.
No.
We want to be in pain when we play these games. We want you to enjoy us suffering. That's
Correct.
kind of the hook of this show.
I want to get into this new Lord of the Rings game in just a second, but first, the Nintendo Switch hardware change that appears to be coming 2020. Bloomberg reporting that, and this has been in the works for quite a while. There were, if you dial back a year plus, there were reports that there were 2 new Switches coming: a more sophisticated model and a stripped down light model. And the light model came out. The bigger, more powerful model is, according to Bloomberg, coming early 2021. And a couple of what we know, or we believe we know, what's being reported is it will support 4K, Reiner. And a Switch that supports 4K, that could add a year or two onto the Switch's viable life cycle. You can't. It's hard to even buy.
Yeah,
it's hard to even buy a console or buy a TV right now that isn't 4K. Try to find a standard high def set to even buy anymore. So, what do you think about the marketplace appetite is for a 4K Switch?
I think it'll be huge. I think you give us a new reason to upgrade. We always do it. Nintendo, they have us, right? Hook, line, and sinker.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime they release new hardware, we get excited about it. Even if they take away a feature like they did this last time with the Switch Lite.
Mm-hmm. We took the docking away.
Yeah, well, it's like, I want that. It has better battery life. Cool. I'm all in. Going 4K, that's going to allow for more third parties that are making games for the new gen, right? Mm-hmm. That has to be the assumption that they're opening the doors for these experiences that are maybe a little too aggressive in terms of power and all that stuff for the Switch now. So I think it's a great move, keeping that ecosystem alive for the Switch, not creating the next thing, the next console, but extending the Switch lifespan is what they need to do, because we can't get enough of it now. And if you give us another model, we're going to eat it up.
We'll probably buy it. Now, are you willing to get, let's assume that 4K support comes with a trade-off. What if this new Switch is heavier? Is that okay?
It's okay. Yeah. I want a bigger screen charge.
You want bigger screen.
I don't mind holding a
at,
tablet in my hand. I just want a big, nice high-def display.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to carry this in my pocket at any point.
It never was a pocket device like the Game Boys were.
I'll put it in a backpack, have it in a carrying case, you name it. But yeah, give me a nice display. Let me plug it into my TV if it is doing true 4K.
Well, yeah.
And if they can I don't know if it's even feasible on a small screen like that doing 4K, but just
probably not.
A sharper picture would be great, because we've all had our Switch with the small text on there.
No, it's tough.
Get blurry, yeah.
Yep, so it's tough.
A better display on the handheld, I'm in. I would be in, and Nintendo, name your price.
Well, that was going to be my question. That was going to be my question. So, all right, if this new Switch hardware is coming in early next year, at what price point? Let's assume it's a little bigger, it's a better screen, and has 4K support when it's docked for your TV. What do you believe would be, not you, because you'll buy it at any price.
Yeah.
What do you believe would be the marketplace acceptable price for the Switch as I just described it?
I think you stay at $300 and you lower the price on the lower end model then.
Agreed.
You drop that $100 or $50, and then you have this new 4K one in at $300.
Agreed. I think you can't go above where it is now at $300. And it just feels like, hey, at that point it's a 3-year-old system, 4-year-old system.
Yeah.
If it comes out in March of next year. And so at that point, you probably ought to be, it's okay to lower the price finally on that original model at that point.
Launch it in March. Breath of the Wild 2 at launch.
Oh,
We're
wouldn't
all
you
gonna
love
go
that?
crazy.
Oh,
Yeah, we'd all
geez.
go crazy.
What if it just, even if it just has Breath of the Wild remastered for
Yeah,
4K?
we'd all do that too. Yeah,
People would do it. They would.
but we know Breath of the Wild 2 is in development.
It is.
It's got to be coming soon, or we got to see it soon. The assumption is it's 2021. That lines up with this new system. Not saying it's going to be exclusive for whatever this is. It's going to be on Switch as well. They've already announced it for that. So, but you got to imagine they would make up a souped-up version for this one.
Lord of the Rings has been iterated upon in the video game world many, many times, more so than there are books. And there's a new Lord of the Rings game that's been announced, and it's all about Gollum,
Yeah.
which I find weird and
It
a
is.
daring choice.
Yeah, this was announced a bit ago, and when we were still in the office, and we all kind of shook our heads like, how do you play as Gollum?
Do I even want to?
game?
I don't
Yeah.
like Gollum. Why do I want to be Gollum?
Is it you just sitting in a cave complaining about the ring? You know, like, what do you do as Gollum? And that's what this game's going to explore. You're going to get to see what he did when he would kind of lurk off into the shadows. So it is a stealth game. You know, you're moving around, going through Middle Earth, behind the scenes. He's not, you know, a combat. You know, he does not battle things in the traditional sense. So you got to think about how Gollum will interact with the world to get past obstacles and stuff like that. I think it's an interesting viewpoint into that universe. I worry about it being a full game.
Yeah,
Will
can you get
playing as this guy even be fun, or is it just going to be weird and off-putting?
right? 30 hours of Gollum seems like a lot of Gollum to me.
Or even 10 or 5, you know, like...
Right. The developer is called Daedalic, and they're saying this thing's going to be very, very narrative heavy, and it's going to explore a lot of the time when Gollum isn't in the books, and at the same time trying to be faithful to who he reasonably could have like run into. So there's going to be familiar characters in the game, and he could have run into Gandalf. That's very possible because Gandalf's really old, and he could have run into Gandalf. And the elves are really old, so you could have run into elves maybe. But who could he have done, and who could he have seen? So the game starts at the same time as the first movies do, where Frodo is still in the Shire with no knowledge of the ring. And if you remember the very beginning of the first movie, Gollum ventures into Mordor and he's looking for Bilbo Baggins in the ring, but he gets caught and he gets tortured, and that's how the game starts, with Gollum in Mordor and presumably having to escape out of that so he can then go try to find the ring. I don't know. It's a weird choice. Maybe it's going to be great, but it's a peculiar one because we don't often get a protagonist that we actively walk in the door disliking.
Yeah, and you know the developer has to have the idea there, right? Like it's backed by the Tolkien estate, you know, Warner Brothers, you know, all these whoever's involved in the Lord of the Rings property. Like you have to think there's a good idea there. So I'm curious to see where it goes. The trailer looks promising, but again, you know, I just see him just kind of lurking around, and I wonder if that'll be fun.
Yeah, not sure about that. Great job today. Thanks, Reiner. If you missed any part of the show, check out the podcast. You can find Video Games Weekly at your favorite podcasting platform, and always grateful for the time that people take to leave reviews and rate the show to help other people around the country find Video Games Weekly. We'll be back next week. Talk to you then, everybody. Bye-bye.